This is your home of the Columbus Blue Jackets. Sports Radio 97.1 The Fan.
Like the trailer shot, score!
You are now listening to The Inside Edge with Jody, Shelley, and Bob McElligott. This is your inside perspective on the NHL, players, the Blue Jackets, and more.
March with us. Brought to you by Ohio Health, Nationwide Insurance, El Dorado, Scioto Downs, and Huntington.
Here's former Jacket Jody Shelley and the voice of the Jackets, Bob McElligott.
Welcome to the Inside Edge. I'm Bob McElligott, joined by Jody Shelley. Today we're coming to you from the Marriott Waterside here in Tampa. It's right across the street from Amalie Arena, where the Blue Jackets will resume their road trip on Friday night, taking on the Tampa Bay Lightning for the final time this regular season. Jody, last night, we've got a big show here. We're going to have Jarmo Kekalainen, Blue Jackets GM, in just a couple of minutes, and then we've got Aaron Portzline from the Columbus Dispatch later. So let's go through last night quickly. And quickly is about the way to talk about it. The Blue Jackets lose 5-3 last evening. It was a game in which they had an early lead. They could have had a second goal. It was disallowed, and then the Carolina Hurricanes came back. But one thing we learned about Carolina is they are fast, they are aggressive, and to me, I don't know how you felt, but I felt that was maybe the toughest game the Blue Jackets have played in the last 4 weeks.
Well, interesting note to start that game. Sergei Bobrovsky gets ill. Forsberg goes in. I mean, you put Forsberg in that situation. Tough situation for him last night. Matty Calvert, a late scratch. Dalton Prout pulls in on the wing. Different dynamic for the Blue Jackets. Hey, they're going to face adversity, and that's adversity before the puck hits the ice for the Columbus Blue Jackets. They were excited to have Forsberg. He fought it a little bit, and the Blue Jackets stuck with it. You know what? They had a chance to win that game. Power play came up short last night. That's been a huge momentum push for this team. I like the team. I like what they're facing. They're facing a desperate team in the Carolina Hurricanes. Carolina's 2 points. That was a huge 2 points for them. They're looking to rise after that and catapult themselves up in the playoffs picture. But you know what? They got the Blue Jackets next week and 3 days after, so they're going to have a tall task. But I don't mind it for the Blue Jackets. I think they got a few days here in between games. They'll reset, refocus for the back-to-back. To me, the puck was bouncing too much, and they didn't push early enough. The push late, you got to credit Cam Ward on that win.
And as you mentioned, Anton Forsberg made the start in goal. He just got called up, and then he gets in there. Curtis McElhinney waived on Monday and was claimed by the Toronto Maple Leafs, which is good. He's got a job. But Forsberg is trying to win himself a job here right now. With Matt Calvert not being in there, I don't know if I'm overthinking this, and you can correct me if I am, but that line of Calvert, Carlson, and Anderson has been the settle-it-down line all year. When things are going astray, John Tortorella puts them out. They settle it all down. He wasn't there last night, and that changed a lot of that dynamic.
I agree with that. I mean, you always miss Matt Calvert. I did like how Hartnell fit in there because when Calvert was out with that head injury, Hartnell slid into that position, and him and Anderson do well together. It's just a matter of coming up short with all lines, I think. I think they were surprised at times by the Carolinas' speed. They were surprised at times by the Carolinas' penalty kill. I mean, it was impressive, number one in the league, and they locked it down. Very structured, very quick, and very well-coached team.
Yes, they were. And as you said, the Blue Jackets are going to get them when they get back home next week after they wrap up this road trip. But there's still plenty of hockey to play here on Friday night in Tampa and then across the state in Sunshine, Florida, taking on the Florida Panthers on Saturday. But the Blue Jackets staff, much of the staff made this trip to come to Florida. And the reason being there are scouting meetings going on this week. Jarmo Kekalainen, John Davidson, they were here. We landed last night. They immediately got into a car, went over to Orlando where those scouting meetings are going to be, and those meetings start today. However, yesterday before the game, Jody and I got a chance to catch up with the Blue Jackets general manager, Jarmo Kekalainen. Jarmo, you come in this week with the best team in the National Hockey League, and I guess my first question for you is, last year when you go through what you did, you finished 27th in the league. How do you have the patience to pretty much stay with the same group, with bringing in a couple of young players, I realize, from Cleveland? But other than that, very little change on this team. Was that tough or was that easy for you to stay with the group?
Well, when you finish 27th, a lot of things go through your mind and you have to analyze things. And at the end of the day, we felt that we had a good group last year. We didn't feel that we were 27th best team in the league. Before the season, everybody had kind of picked us to be the dark horse, the Metro, or to make the playoffs, or even compete for Stanley Cup, and we ended up 27th for various reasons, mainly because we got off to a poor start and we underachieved and didn't play up to our potential. But we felt that we are a much better team. We feel that we are improved and better this year because of some of the additions. Obviously, the championship in Cleveland was encouraging. We saw some of our young prospects take a huge role in their run and make a fairly safe prediction that a guy like Zach Werenski is going to make a smooth transition. You never know. You'll have to see that for him to get there. But to come in as an 18-year-old defenseman and do what he did in the American League playoffs was got us more than excited. But we kind of bit our tongue until we saw him do the same thing in the NHL.
Jarmo, you've been in hockey your entire life, and is there an experience or something you've been through, or because I know you were a general manager back in Finland, you were an assistant GM, you've done a lot of different roles. Is there something that you can lean back on and you're glad you went through that helped you through this last year and into this season?
I don't know. In 20 years that I've been in management, I've never gone 0-8 to start, so that was kind of a shocker and something that I hope I never have to experience again. But I kept saying that through last year, through the experience, that this is a time when you learn the most. And you learn about your players, you learn about your staff, the people around you, how they stay positive or do they start pointing fingers, making excuses. And I felt within our group that the guys got tighter together as a group, and they still were a team, and they weren't pointing fingers. They weren't making excuses, and I think that they grew together a lot. They learned a lot, and as a management staff, I'm sure we learned a lot too. And whenever if we would ever get too high with the winning streaks or looking at the standings, all you have to do is remind yourself of where we were last year, and I think it'll keep the feet firmly on the ground.
You've always said that you look at your team every day and you're looking to make them better however you can. But there's some very tough decisions that have to be made when you're doing that, and probably some things that you don't even like to do. And you did that earlier this week with a guy like Curtis McElligott, who's been a true pro and a great teammate here, putting him on waivers and bringing up Anton Forsberg to try to fortify that backup goaltending position. How tough is that for you? You make the decision and then to have to tell the player and actually make the move.
I hate that part of the job, obviously. Like you said, Curtis is a great pro and a real quality person and a teammate that's very well liked. Organizationally, we felt last year that we were already at a point where Curtis is not a young goaltender anymore. At some point, he's going to move on, and we have two good young goaltenders. Breathing on his neck. Anton played great in the playoffs in the American League, won the championship for him at the end. We all saw Joonas Korpisalo even on the NHL level, excel on the NHL level, and fairly consistently for the 30 games that he played. So we knew that switch was coming at some point. Curtis played some great games for us and deserved the opportunity and the ice time he got this year. We felt that now was the time to give Anton Forsberg a chance, an opportunity to show what he can do. He's .930 in the American League this year again and playing very consistently, very well. So in order to do that, we had to make a roster move. It's as simple as that. And like you said, it's a hard part of the business, and I certainly don't enjoy doing it, but room had to be made on the roster.
And from a fan standpoint, they saw Korpisalo play here so well last year. And Forsberg, when he's been up, he hasn't performed as well in the NHL. But you've seen him at the American Hockey League level. As you said, he won a championship last year. He took that net and he never gave it back. And you could even make the argument that he's only giving the net in Cleveland back right now to Korpisalo because he's getting a chance to come up here. Yeah,
and we always try to follow the code that we have, that you have to earn your call-up, and that's what determined the call-up with Forsberg. It's very simple. He earned it. He deserved it. And, he showed some nerves of steel in the playoffs and in the finals in the American League when he went in and when, Joonas Korpisalo started very well in the playoffs and then had a couple of subpar games, and Anton got his opportunity and he never gave the net back, as you said. So he's got NHL potential. He's got NHL starter potential, and he's going to have a great opportunity here at some point to to make a start, and I'm sure he'll be more ready this year than he has in the past.
Another transaction you made last year was picking up Seth Jones, and I knew nothing about him, and I'm just wondering, did you know he was that good of you know his skill and his size, but he seems like a really great guy and a great fit in your room. Did you know how good of a person he was?
Yeah, we had a lot of we did a lot of homework on his character, and we were kind of fortunate. Billy Zito was the assistant GM on the U.S. World Championship team when Seth Jones played there as a member of Nashville Predators. So they spent 2 weeks together in Czech Republic and getting to know each other, and you know, Bill had nothing but great things to say about Seth and his character and his off-ice and habits and what kind of teammate he was. Obviously, we had watched him a lot for the draft. Our scouts knew him inside and out. We did a lot of pro scouting and watched a lot of tape, too, from his recent games in Nashville. And when I first joined the Blue Jackets, we were in last place, and so I went to see Seth Jones, Nathan McKinnon, Jonathan Drouin, those guys a lot. And so I was able to see Seth Jones that spring quite a bit. So we'd gotten to know him since he was a draft-eligible 17-year-old, 18-year-old player. But also the off-ice part, we felt that we had a pretty good book on it because of Bill Zito. So those things all combined, and you know, he came in and has fit in perfectly with our team and is well-liked around in the room. And you know, his on-ice thing is his performance just scratching the surface now. He's 22 years old, and I think there's another level 2 or 3 that he can get to.
If you're going to build a team from scratch, is that, I mean, besides the goaltender, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, is that the most coveted position? I mean, is that the right-handed shot number 1 or number 2 defenseman? Is that what you go after?
Yeah, right-handed or left-handed. I think you build from goalies up defense, and we've seen the importance of our defense, the mobility and the ability to play the transition. It's basically changed the way we play the game, and you know, I've said this before, but it doesn't matter how good your forwards are if they never get the puck from your defenseman. That's, you know, you're not going to get it fast enough in transition. You're not coming out of your own end clean, and it's as simple as that.
Maybe that was my problem. I didn't play with good enough defensemen.
It could be.
Talking with General Manager Jarmo Kekalainen. You're talking about Seth Jones. He, Sergei Bobrovsky, John Tortorella, all going to represent the Blue Jackets with the NHL All-Star festivities in Los Angeles in a couple of weeks. How nice is it to be that well represented by this team going into a big event like that?
It's awesome. I'm very proud of the players that got selected and very happy for John Tortorella. It's a great honor, and you get it as a coach. You get it because we have the highest winning percentage in the standings at I think the dates today, and so it's great. I think it's a great honor for those players and coach, but it's also great for the organization.
Let's talk about the expansion draft, because as it goes on, people are going to start talking about that more and more. How do you approach that, and what really are the rules? The players that you're looking at, everybody's going to lose somebody good. Every team's going to lose a good player. As you look at it, how do you size it up, and how many players do you have to protect, and how do you go about the whole thing?
Actually, when you look at it a little bit closer, not every team's going to lose a good player, and it's a bit of a timing thing, too. If we had this expansion draft a year ago, we wouldn't have lost anybody. We would have had the perfect mix of exempt players and the amount of players that we needed to protect. So yeah, it's going to be interesting here, because the closer you get to the deadline, and every team in this league wants to make the playoffs and is competing right now to make the playoffs, but we might see a little bit more moves as far as somebody thinking, okay, the chances are not that great. Let's just make sure that we protect our franchise for the future. And some moves that normally might not be made will be made to protect the organization for the expansion draft. But we're going to do everything we can to make sure that we protect our team and our franchise the best way we can. And it's unfortunate that you're going to lose a player, but we'll see where it goes. It's going to be interesting. There's going to be a lot of talking with Las Vegas too before we get to the expansion draft. There's all kinds of different options that you can look at. to have them to try to steer them to take certain player or there's going to be a lot of talk, and Las Vegas is going to hold a lot of interesting cards in their hands to select the players they can.
Jarmo, you just played your 41st game as an organization on this season. Your team has, and you think back to last year and the difference of where you sit as a general manager. What can you really? I mean, you guys have a plan, but I mean, you've got the best team in the National Hockey League. What does the second half look like for you now? I know it's completely opposite of last year, where you're scratching your head and wondering, but now, I mean, is there a sense now that, hey, our team, this could be a time for us?
Well, first of all, I think we have something to look forward to every day. That's a huge thing. When you go through the start that we had last year and you get to the second half pretty much knowing that the hope's gone, it's tough. It's tough for the players. It's tough for the coaching staff to try to motivate the players that have no hope or very little hope of making the playoffs. So we have something to look forward to every day. And I think that our mindset that we've had right from the start of the year, that as a young group, let's just concentrate one day at a time, focus on getting better each and every day. I think that's the mindset that we need to keep having and do that until the end of the regular season. And hopefully we'll be in the playoff picture by then, and then we'll go, and then we'll go for it like any team would go for it in the Stanley Cup playoffs if we make it. I mean, anything can happen in sports. We've seen it on both sides of the coin, and there's not a team in the National Hockey League that isn't going to the Stanley Cup playoffs thinking that they're going to win it.
I'm going all over the place here, but I want to go back about, you mentioned John Tortorella being an all-star, but you didn't know him when you hired him. How impressed are you with him and how he approaches every single day with this group?
He's been in the league for a long time for a reason. He's won the Stanley Cup, and he's the winningest U.S.-born coach, and he's won 500 games and so forth. You don't. That doesn't happen by accident. So there's no surprise there, really. More biggest surprise, I guess, is the public perception sometimes is so different from what the reality is. We had some very good intel on him from inside. John Davidson knew him from when he was in New York, and we talked to a lot of different type of players. We talked to a skilled player, we talked to a tough player, we talked to role players, we talked to players that were in his doghouse, we talked to players he loved. So we talked to a lot of different types of players to find out what type of coach he is, not just the ones that we would expect to say great things about him. So, pretty much all the players liked playing for him, even the ones that he was tough on, said that, at the end of the day, after being able to digest this message, I realize now what he was trying to get through, and I like the honesty and the straightforward style that keeps everybody accountable. And I think one of the biggest things in motivating people is that people that you're trying to motivate know exactly what's expected of them. There's always clarity in that, and if there's any misconception or any questions, you'll get the answers from right away.
As we're in Florida now, you're going to get together with your scouts and have a big scouting meetings. And what kind of things will you go over there? And Jody was just saying about how things are so much different for you this year from last year. As you go into that meeting with your scouts, what do you expect the energy to be like this year, just because of the way the team's playing with all the positive vibes that are going on here?
It'll be completely different. I'm sure everybody's happy around the team, and it includes scouts too. I did that for 15 years, and when the team's losing and you go into the scouts room before the games, you kind of have your head down, and everybody's looking at you. Those guys are in the bottom of the standings. It's not fun. So it trickles down for sure, and those guys do a hard job for us and great job for us. So I'm happy for them too, that they can walk with their head high now, and they've done a great job. So they deserve a lot of credit. So we get together with the pro scouts first before the Tampa game, and then we get together with the amateur staff before and after the Florida Panthers game. So we'll with the pro scouts, we'll talk about the approaching deadline and what our needs might be and where our focus needs to be as far as what we need to see and what we need to evaluate. And then with the amateur scouts, it's just a regular midterm meeting getting ready for the draft.
So all those guys that are driving through a snowstorm in Saskatchewan in the middle of the night, or driving through New England watching the American Hockey League games, this is a time they can ride in that car with the heater cranked up and feel good, right?
Yeah, and we always have the spouses come into the midterm meetings, and they're in down south, a little warmer weather than the Saskatchewan weather at this time of year. So that'll keep the wives happy for the next couple of months, and boys can be on the road.
There you go. Happy wife, happy life, right, Joe?
That's right, Bob. We know that.
All right. Jarmo, thank you so much. We appreciate you taking the time, and good luck.
My pleasure. Thank you.
That is General Manager Jarmo Kekalainen of the Blue Jackets. And the Inside Edge continues right after this on 97.1 The Fan.